If you're thinking about planning a trip to Morocco, then you are in the right place because I just got back from 2 weeks in one of my favorite countries and I wanted to share all of the best accommodations that I stayed at during that trip. Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Amy and I create travel content while traveling pretty much full time. And my last trip to Morocco was actually the fourth time I've been there, so I consider myself a bit of an expert now. And I've stayed at many different accommodations, and I wanted to give you the top ones that you should definitely consider booking for your next trip. So let's start out with the Merzouga Desert Camp. This was the first place that we booked on our road trip. So we went to the Merzouga Sahara Desert and it was incredible, a really amazing time. I do have a few different points to say and things you should note about coming to the desert if you're planning a trip to Morocco, though. So I visited in July, which is considered the low season because it is really, really hot in Morocco this time of year. So it was $62 US per night for two people. That's kind of the rough pricing if you're doing it through booking.com. By the way, I will leave links to the accommodations below if you do want to check them out, and it will be an affiliate link. So I might earn a small commission if you end up purchasing or booking through that link. Really appreciate it in advance. But let me just explain what this place was about. So, for that price, you stay in this luxury tent. It is honestly quite luxurious for a tent, and they include breakfast as well. Because you're going to be in the desert, you have to eat the food that they make there. So, you end up buying meals as well. And you kind of have to pay for tours because there isn't really a whole lot that you can do other than doing the tours. It gets really hot during the day, especially in the low season when it's summertime, and you can't really stick around because you're just going to be in a hot tent for hours that's between 40 and 50 degrees. So no one wants to do that. The food at this place wasn't amazing, but you can't really expect too much because it is in the middle of the desert. So with that in mind, it was pretty good. They had a wide range of things, but everything was really hot because it was so hot that time of year. We ended up paying 20 euros per person to do a Jeep tour during the day, and we booked 2 nights in total. So for the first night, we just got there late at night. The second day, we did all the activities, one being this Jeep tour, and they took us around to a Berber nomadic family to check out how they live, have tea, and see a little show of people doing music, stuff like that throughout the day. And I'm not going to lie, it felt a little bit like a money grab, but there isn't a whole lot that you can do. So we enjoyed it for what it was. And then we ended up going to the pool at a hotel in the afternoon, which was definitely worth it. They only really do this in the low season when it is super, super hot. So in the summertime or in their winter time, you're not going to have the option for the pool, I don't think. And also, it would cost a little bit more if you want to stay that time of year. It goes up to around 100 US dollars per night for the accommodation. And I don't know if the activities change in price, but that's kind of roughly what you can expect to pay if you're going in a cooler time of year. It honestly was a really cool experience staying in the desert. And I don't think you need more than 2 days to do it all. We also did a camel ride, which I wouldn't really recommend, just because they don't seem to treat the camels amazingly. Um, and I know this is kind of off to a random weird start because I have a lot of negative things to say, but I do think it was a really cool accommodation. And it's not something you're always going to do when you are traveling. You don't really have the chance to stay in the desert usually and do like a camping experience. You also can lay out under the stars at night in the sand dunes and watch the stars. That was one of the highlights for me. And yeah, I just think it's a cool place to stay at least once during your travels. Okay, so the next place is in between Merzouga, which is the Sahara Desert, and Marrakech. We planned it this way so we could break up our drive because to drive straight from Marrakech to the desert or vice versa is about 8 hours. So we broke it up and we stayed close to a town called Zagora, and it was in a place called Kasbah Ulad Othman. I'm going to put it on screen so you guys can see how it's spelled, but it was a clay hut, house, hotel sort of thing. And honestly, it was really, really cool. I found this place just from TikTok, I think, and I saved it because it looked amazing. They have a pool, so it looks really beautiful and it pops the blue color with the clay that's kind of an orangey color for all the homes around. And it's a little bit random, but it's also next to a bunch of palm trees, like this massive palm tree grove sort of thing. And I loved that. I thought it was such a cool place to stay. They do include breakfast, and it costs $53 a night for two people in low season. And when I looked into it for high season, it doesn't really get much more expensive and only really goes up to 60 US per night, including breakfast. I think that's pretty great. I don't know if it'll change like later in the year when it becomes busier if they up the prices, but I think it's pretty fair. The one thing I do have to say is it was extremely hot. I was basically dying when we were in that accommodation. Luckily, it was just for one night, but they don't have any air conditioning. There's one fan and it traps all the heat, that building. So just be prepared to sweat if you're going in the summer months. I would recommend going in a cooler time of year when it's not going to be so brutal to fall asleep there. You don't have to, but I think most people buy the dinner there. I think it was maybe 10, around 10 euros per person, maybe 15. And it's always traditionally at all of these accommodations a soup, tagine, bread, maybe a salad. So, and they give you fruit as well for dessert. I think it's a fair price, especially considering how inexpensive the accommodation is and the fact that it's so unique and cool. There was one other group staying of like two or three people when we were there. So if you do go in low season, you will have the place to yourself. And I just thought it was really, really cool because I've never seen anywhere that looked like this. And yeah, I would recommend staying there if you want to get some awesome photos and like videos as well. All right, next up we have Marrakech. You are going to want to stay in a riad when you're in Marrakech, and there are so many to choose from, like hundreds. And they're all in the Medina, which is the old town. I've stayed at a few different riads now, and all of them have been amazing. So I'm going to tell you the three I've stayed at and just explain why I liked them so much. So the one I recently stayed at is called Riad Olika. It was around 70 US dollars per night for two people in a room. That's during low season. It includes breakfast, but it does go up a lot in high season, closer to $200 a night. This Riad was like clean, beautiful. The people who run the place are really, really nice. It's in a great location, close to the big square. The only thing I will say is there's no pool or place to cool down inside, but it has a beautiful terrace and the breakfast was also really great. Riyadh Kasbah is probably the most luxurious hotel I've stayed at. It is amazing. It costs around 128 US dollars per night for two people in low season, goes up to around 200 a night in high season. And also during high season, you have to pay for 2 nights minimum, but this place has a full blown pool, which is amazing in really hot weather. And I just thought the design was beautiful. It had amazing terrace as well. And they bring you breakfast up on the terrace, which was really, really nice. And lastly, for Marrakesh, we have Riyad Darten. This place really surprised me. It's a smaller Riyadh, probably around the same size as Riyadh Olika was. Riyadh Kasbah is a little bit bigger, and it goes for around $110 a night for two people in a room with breakfast included. Prices don't really change that much in high season, but they do go up a little bit. So if you're traveling in high season and don't want to spend so much on a riad, that one could be a good option. Same with Riad Olika. Then after Marrakesh, we drove about an hour or so to the Atlas Mountains in a town called Imlil, or near that town. It was a few-minute drive to get there, so you definitely need a car to get to this next accommodation. It is called the Berber Family Lodge. It's 30 US dollars for a private room for two people, including breakfast. And it is a little bit of a hike to get up there, but it is beautiful. You have a stunning view of the mountains and it feels really secluded. You do kind of have to have their dinner. There is no kitchen to use unless you just want to eat snacks for dinner, but their dinner is really good and it's only about 10 euros per person, again with the traditional Moroccan food you would typically have. And I do think it's important to note that if you're vegetarian or vegan, they always have options. I'm vegan and I was able to eat their veggie tagine and they had a soup, and that kind of goes for most places. You're kind of able to get a vegetarian tagine very easily, and there's typically a soup you can have as well. Lastly, we're going to head over to the coast of Essaouira. It's about a 3-hour drive from Marrakech, and it is a fishing sea town. I didn't actually spend too much time in Essaouira overall, and most recently, we actually booked a villa, but I thought it was a really cool accommodation to show you guys if you wanted to travel with a group of friends. Just in general, if you want to have like a more private space when you're in Morocco, I thought it was a really good one. It's about a 20-minute drive actually from Essaouira, so you do need a car to get there, and it is beautiful. I'll put a few videos up so you can see what it looked like. It has 4 bedrooms and it goes for around 270 USD per night, but you can have up to 10 people. The price goes up to around $320 a night for 10 people. So that means you'd only be paying 32 US dollars a night to share a villa with some friends. I think 1 or 2 people will have to end up sleeping on a couch or something, but I don't think that's too bad if you wanted to have a good spot to like relax with friends in Morocco. The owners of this place were super, super friendly. They have a cute little son and they came by to make sure everything was good. So I would highly recommend checking it out. It was a really cool spot and a great place to relax at the end of the trip. As you might be able to tell, you can find some amazing and incredible, unique spots to stay in Morocco without breaking the bank. Yes, you can spend more. Yes, you can spend less. I feel like we found some amazing spots for the price. And I haven't stayed anywhere quite as unique as these places in Morocco, especially the desert accommodation and the clay hut one. That one was amazing. And I mean, all of them really, they were so beautiful and definitely worth adding to your list if you're planning a trip there. If you're planning to do this type of route and stay where I stayed, I would 100% say you need to have a car. You don't always need a car to get around Morocco. I actually haven't traveled by car in Morocco before this trip. I've done buses and shuttles to get around, but it was so much easier with a car, and I think it's fairly inexpensive to get one as well. That's going to wrap up my Morocco content for now. Let me know if you have any questions about traveling to Morocco. I would love to help you out. I will leave all of the accommodations linked below if you want to book them yourself. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.